So let's bring in Chris Bryant, Chair of the Standards and Privileges
in the
Committee.
Freezing cold.
So just, I mean, do you think that it is helpful to pull all this stuff together
Yes.
in one database
Yes.
To make it much more easy for the voters to understand?
Yes.
And why then?
Well done.
There were
I mean,
well, no, so my question then is, if you think it's such a good idea, why haven't you or your committee or other MPs done it before this?
We've been trying to do this for the last 2 years. I mean, every minute that I've been on, every meeting on the committee since I've been chair, there's one member in particular, Rita, who has been endlessly banging on the door of this and trying to get the ICT people here in Parliament to put together a system that works. So you can look at everything. You should be able to see everything that relates to an MP's registration of interest and everything that they have to, that goes to their constituency association rather than to them personally and so on, all of that. The one flaw, I think, in your version is that it doesn't have anything from ministerial interests. So it looks as if backbench MPs are more involved in all of this than ministers, whereas in actual fact it may be, and that's partly because the government is shockingly bad at transparency. They produce, if you want to look at all the ministerial interests every year, you have to look at 320 separate documents online. And we've had a similar problem about that. Anyway, so apologies that we've been slow. We've been trying to get the House to make it its #1 priority, and it is now, and it was when we had our meeting in November, and I hope that by the summer we will have a fully all-singing, all-dancing system, but I want it to include the ministerial stuff as well.
Right, I mean, because on the face of it, MPs are saying to us, but it's already transparent. But when you delve into it, it's not really, as Sam found with this company, MPM Connect. We couldn't find the staff.
I didn't see about that one. I saw the other one, that you had
IX Wireless, but this is a company, I think, donating mainly to Labour MPs. Couldn't find the staff or website. You eventually found a secretary at the registered office who said she'd never heard of the two named individuals. So when you delve a bit deeper, it is still difficult to get to the kind of information that the public may want.
Yes, and there's an argument to say that two things, really. First of all, that the registrar in the House of Commons, with whom you register, if you've been to an event or you've had some outside earnings, the registrar is literally that, just a registrar. As they're constructed and as their office is constructed, they simply register things. They don't have the power to investigate. The Commissioner has the power to investigate, though that is always predicated on MPs cooperating with that process. And there is an argument to say that if you really want to make sure that this is all singing and all dancing and all the transparency is out there, then you need to give the registrar a bit more power to be able to investigate. The other thing is, we could have a system where, at the moment what you do is, I've just had a book advance. I send an email to the registrar saying that it's from such and such a person, I received it on such and such a date, it's so much time and so much money. And sometimes they'll come back to you and say, can you give us the address, and have you done this through your agent or not? But maybe we should actually have a system where you do it all yourself online, so you're entirely responsible for your own registration.
We're seeing your declarations on screen now.
Lovely.
And you're quite happy with that?
Yeah, completely. I mean, transparency is the name of the game. I'm not ashamed of anything that's on there.
Well, there's $7,000 from Qatar.
Well, yes.
You were critical of Qatar. No, well, I guess it's benefits, or went on a trip or something.
No, so, indeed, and indeed I've spoken about the trip to Qatar. I went to Qatar, the Qatari government paid for it. The Standards Committee, which I chair, we're looking at whether we should introduce a new rule to say that foreign governments can't pay for trips for MPs, that might queer the pitch with the relationship with the United States of America as well. But yes, so it was a trip to Qatar. I wanted to go because at the time they were the only extract place from Afghanistan, and I had 135 constituents or people related to my constituents who were possibly going out through that evacuation unit, and I wanted to try and help them. But if I'm honest, I hated the trip. I wish I hadn't gone. And in the end, I think it's good for MPs to have good relations with other countries, but maybe we should be paying, the UK should be paying for it rather than other countries.
Right, look, we've got a couple of minutes left. Sam, do you want to, you might have to get this microphone in, yeah?
Is there a problem around disclosure and transparency. Look, the point is that MPs can take money from companies, right? And those companies can be quite opaque. Is there an issue?
So two things. Take money from companies, that's a big term. So there's, I think you're meaning donations to constituency parties and elections. So that's not money that goes into their own pockets.
Yep.
And I think it's important to disaggregate these things out. That's one thing. And of course, I think everybody needs to know where this money is really coming from. You may know in the Andrew Bridgen case recently, this was really quite a knotty problem about where the money was actually coming from, and we had to delve into it. And of course, he will be suspended tonight for 5 days from the House for being engaged in paid lobbying.
But is it too easy for MPs to take donations from companies and then for the company itself to be really quite murky, quite indistinct, very hard to trace the source of the money, and actually, because of that, we don't really have the transparency that we keep being told that we do?
I haven't come across that until you did this. So it's a well done you. Sorry, I'm sounding really patronising. I don't mean it that way. I think transparency is in everybody's interests. Actually, I go back to a point I made earlier. The people you really want to know where their financial transactions are government ministers. If they're going off on jollies...
Well, we may well get round to that.
Well, but that's the bit that's missing at the moment, and because they're the people who actually make decisions. All I do is I shout at people who make decisions.
Yeah, well, we've spent months doing this, so
Yes.
we'll
No.
But I've got a point here. Things
and
may be...
and it may be that the House authorities need to come to you to look at what we can use from what you've done that might just shortcut the system so that we can do it more effectively.
there is
No, sorry, and I'm conscious I didn't fully answer Sam's question. Of course, it shouldn't be opaque. The whole point of the register is that it should be absolutely clear, and when anybody engages in their business as an MP, if they have a financial interest, they cannot lobby on behalf of that financial interest. Absolute rule. It's been there since 1695 in the Orphans Bill.
Right, and the changes that are coming in March, and paid work for MPs as parliamentary advisors and strategists and so forth.
All go.
Does that go far enough?
No, it could probably go further. I think some of us would like it to go further, but this is where we got to, because in the end the motion has to be tabled by the government. I think that undoubtedly there are some people in the country who believe that no MP should have any second job of any kind whatsoever. I'm not sure that quite works, because everybody then goes, apart from a doctor or a dentist or a nurse, or maybe a farmer if they're in a rural constituency. Oh, and of course it's fine to write speeches and articles, or give speeches and articles and write books and things like that. So we found it really, really difficult to come up with a better system. For me, the key issue is, if you have any kind of financial interest outside Parliament, do you abuse it? Or do you abuse your position as an MP to pursue that commercial interest, because that is a conflict of interest? For me, that is the single most important part of everything that I've wanted to try and sort of clean up about. But you only get to know that if you have full transparency, and not, murky, cloudy transparency, full, unopaque, opalescent. No, that's wrong. I don't know what word.
But just finally, should it be down to us and Sam and the tortoise and to do this? It should be down to you. You look after your own
apologising that we've been slow.
But it could have been done years ago.
Well, I'm not sure. Our register, at least, you can go online and you can, if you type in Chris Bryant, Register of Financial Interests, it will all come up. And indeed, I think They Work For You has a version which keeps your previous register as well online. And there's an argument for us doing that in the House, or so that it's all constantly collated. We've also changed the rule so that from the 1st of March, if you have an outside interest, you can't, that lasts, as it were, for 12 months rather than 6 months at the moment. So we are tightening up the rules.
I'm aware
there will be calls for more tightening.
I'm aware Peter Bottomley is here. So, in fact, we could actually just talk now. Thanks very much indeed.